Welcome to Rollfair, a D&D podcast. And we are celebrating our 124th episode, guys! All
right, 124 special!
We just had a little bit extra time, so we thought we'd do a little bit of a special. We're going to be just ourselves, asking each other about our characters and anything, really. So we're going to start off with Sarah. She has a question for our devious warlock.
One of many names.
Okay. So I'm romance trash. And so I want to know Alton's romance history. I want to know his sexual orientation. I want to know, his past partners.
Wow.
I want to know, has he done the nasty? And what was it like? Is he sexually active right now? Give me the skinny.
That's 17 questions right there.
They're all valid.
That's all that's in, your romantic history.
I'm going to be making all this up as I go along because I haven't written any of that backstory.
Perfect.
That's actually really funny.
You got to write it down now.
Now I've got to figure out what I'd even answer for this. What's in his backstory around this?
Just become the Alton.
If it works, if it's better, maybe you can ruminate on it and we can go to a different person if you need time.
Sure. Let me ruminate a little bit. I got to pull my backstory a little bit too to remind myself some of my past, wherever that is.
I want to know, teenage Alton, what was his first kiss? Was it awkward? Did she reciprocate? All of it.
Wow.
Tell me the story.
It's always awkward.
I want to know.
Okay, come back to me.
Okay.
It's funny because I've actually written all of that for Kaiji.
She has. She's told me about it in detail.
Perfect. Do you want to because that's cool. Can I ask it to two different people?
I'm not the moderator here. I'm just in the DM chair because I was DMing just barely.
Okay, so, Kaiji was kidnapped when she was, just before she officially turned 12, according to tribal tradition. So, she never really, had an interest. She wasn't really old enough to have interest in anyone when she was captured, and when she, officially joined the crew, there were a lot of weird mixed feelings because everyone else on the crew is rather sexually active and open about it. And she was especially uncomfortable because all growing up, she was taught that T'Chawi and Yabankichi humans are very fetishistic. That they just like tabaxis because they're furry, essentially. And so,
soft.
Mm-hmm. And so
cuddly.
that. And so that made her really.
Can also make you bleed.
apprehensive about humans, and she's also really scared of the idea of getting pregnant. And so she there's a one of the physician's assistants, one of the healers on the ship that's kind of like a companion, what are the Asaris called in Mass Effect? What's that title? Is it companion?
It's companion in Firefly.
In Firefly. It's that same kind of concept where she's whatever you need her to be.
Right.
Yeah, like a really high class.
That's literally,
kind of person.
And so she actually runs these every month. She runs these female orgies. And especially for new recruits to try to get them open and social. And so she eventually talked Mossy into coming one of the weeks. They sarcastically call it quilting bee or sewing night or whatever. And so that's how she started out. And then because she was afraid of getting pregnant, she isn't really all that into females, but she paid a Mendrikez like a couple gold, and she hates scales. She thinks that's the worst. That's just awful.
Not into Sharu.
Not at all.
My own wife.
Yeah. Your own husband, not even.
Reptiles off the table.
Nope.
No scalies.
No scales. And
What about tieflings?
tieflings are okay. Tieflings are on the table. She's actually in a committed but open relationship with a human.
Oh, you're already in a committed, open relationship.
Indeed.
What?
So was
Oh my
was the
God.
disgust with finding out Arden was behind the Dragonborn that you had squeezed? Was it because of the scales, or was it because it was Arden?
It's because it was Arden. She could get past the scales just for the heist.
Yeah, just to play that
just
role.
to-
The
yeah.
fact that it was her own friend that was old and slightly insane.
Yeah,
Oh,
well,
but
no,
it's
it's the
been
fact
played.
it's the fact
It's the
that
fact that he's
Kaiji hates Arden right now.
Yeah, because of all
Because
the...
all the terrible,
The
awful
past.
things that I've invented that he's done, because I don't know exactly what he's done,
Probably true.
but I assume the worst. Anyway, yeah, so she's been in a relationship with him for about a year now. And he's one of the members of her immediate unit, and so he's one of the people that has gone missing.
Oh, in the crew? Mm-hmm. The pirate crew.
And he's still missing, okay.
That's cool.
Yep.
Arden was totally into it, too. But...
I've never been touched by a woman.
Well, random tail just softly, like...
Caressing the back of
caressing
your
the
neck.
back, yeah.
I hope this doesn't awaken anything.
So yeah, I mean, she has picked up a lot of good seduction hints, because that's really good for reconnaissance, and she learned a lot of pro tips from the healer on the ship.
See?
So
You
What was the
and
healer's name?
her name's Pine.
Arden and her are a lot alike. And
It's Snow on the Pine. She's actually a white tiger tabaxi from the mountains, from like the southern coast tip of the mountains that separate the desert from the jungle.
Ooh. Do you have a question for anyone?
Do I have a question for anyone?
or does
Or does-
Ryan have his...
I've got a little bit I could share, I guess.
All right, let's
I don't have names, because I can't think of names that fast. But
Terry.
Terry, Jerry, Barry, and Larry.
Sherry.
Sherry.
it's funny, though, I did find a placeholder in my backstory of to do, add some notable events and encounters with NPCs that he'd remember. And
To do.
It's like, yeah, I haven't filled that in yet.
I have that too.
But
It's a to-do list, and it's all people.
I'll share a little bit. Yeah.
These
Yes.
are awful.
This is his to-do list, yeah. No, so Seth, he was definitely wasn't Alton back then. I think, so you know about Seth having a sister named Eunice. He and his sister lived alone since he was 13. And you overheard with Oriana that his dad was enslaved, so I'm okay with sharing that. When his dad was enslaved, his mom followed along and moved to the city that his dad was sold to, just to be near him. And kind of with where they were living, she couldn't really afford to care for them anyways, because they're growing teenagers and, eating a ton of food and all that. So she left them to live on their own. They were already living on their own pretty much the whole time anyways, and helping support the family a little bit, but getting into trouble on the streets and trying to earn money however they could. So they were just doing odd jobs here and there and all that. But Seth and Eunice kind of always took care of each other. She was a little bit older than he is. so they were together for about 4 years before she left to join the Treasures of the Sand, which you've heard about. And then when he was 17, he joined a merchant caravan and just started working for a merchant caravan for a while, which you've kind of heard a little bit about in past episodes. So in terms of romantic history, I think as a teenager where he grew up, there were probably one or two other tiefling girls that he maybe tried to sweet talk, didn't necessarily have a lot of success with, but learned how to kiss a little bit, I guess you could say. Definitely nothing like a long-term serious relationship, just because at that time, he was just trying to not starve and stay alive, and dealing with everyone in the city who hates the Kugani, the tieflings, and just trying to get by.
So he's more into tieflings than any other race.
Well,
that's his preference.
Not necessarily, but kind of where he grew up, it wasn't necessarily by choice that he only had romantic relationships with other tieflings.
Okay, because no one else would accept
No one else
him.
would have wanted to have a relationship with him. It's mostly a lot of T'Challa, humans that looked down on them and thought they were dirt and that kind of thing. As he traveled around in the merchant caravan when he was a little older, he did have a few, one-night stands and that kind of thing in different cities that they went around to. If they stayed there long enough, where he might, pick up someone at a tavern, and kind of just blow off some steam or whatever. Before he had to leave and move on. So nothing where it would be a serious long-term relationship, again, just because he hasn't, since he really came of age, he hasn't stayed in one place very long until he tried to become a fence in Kushako.
Ooh, okay.
When he was roughly 20, 21, and then he was in Kushako for 4 years. And again, did really poor at that, and was kind of on the edges of working with that Thieves Guild, but not part of it until everything went south and he botched that job. So in Kushako, I think it kind of, just from his past experiences, he kind of kept to himself a lot. And with the city being what it is, he was also nervous about, getting mugged or killed or
Just getting shanked.
Yeah. So there's not really much opportunity from his position and his station there to really meet people other than, going to a tavern and maybe paying someone or, meeting a barmaid and trying to sweet talk her, that sort of thing.
Oh, so it's kind of sad. Does he, follow-up question, does he long for a relationship? Does he want a sweetheart?
Yeah, I think he does. I think I would say he does, just because he knows, he knows there's more to life than what he's doing now, but he's also getting really caught up in this whole adventure thing, in this power. But, I think it's not like an immediate priority of his, but he's definitely, it's definitely where Oriana really caught his eye.
If only you knew her.
Yeah.
I don't know, I think they get along just great.
Actually, yeah, they would. Yeah. She's a bad influence on you.
Considering we just robbed a guy, I don't think he'd have all that difficult time with the fact that she just
murder hobo.
Murder hoboed some poor dwarven woman in an alley.
Yeah, he's kind of going that direction anyways too.
Well, you're a bad influence on me. I don't normally steal from people.
That was a good one.
Pirates. Oh wait.
Not that kind of pirate. Well, kind of that kind of pirate.
Cool. Anyone else have questions, I guess?
Hey, Ben, have you named your weapons?
Oh yeah, your whip.
Your two whips?
Like familial names.
I mean, his Rainer's whip already kind of has a name to it, but he hasn't named any of his other weapons. The whip is it's called Marisi Wanuru, which is basically means the heirloom of light.
Nice.
So,
Sweet.
but that's the only name that he has. But that's essentially a weapon that was made in his family years ago, and he somehow managed to. Well, essentially, like Imlazit, who is his like mentor, like his personal teacher, essentially, escaped with the whip and gave it to him as they, crossed the desert and were escaping. So.
Nice.
I have more questions, if you guys.
Yeah.
I want everyone to go around the room and say this one. What is the most embarrassing story that has happened to your character that they would just absolutely die if someone found out that they did this thing?
Everything.
Any artists ever done?
Something where it doesn't have to be super serious, but just oh no, please don't bring that up.
Okay.
Oh man.
Huh?
So yeah, start with you.
Oh, great. I gotta think of something.
Does Sharu have any shame?
That's actually a very good question.
That is a good question. So the most embarrassing thing that would have happened to Sharu was when he was in the...
I love this story. If it's the one I'm thinking, maybe not.
I like it. You guys just know exactly.
I guess there's that one too. I was going to come up with a new one, but I'll use that one.
Okay. I love this story.
Growing up, Sharu, so turtles, they grow up in the jungle. They're basically, the parents have a clutch of kids. They die a year later, and then they're basically taught how to defend themselves from that young age, and they go into the jungle and try to survive. But Sharu's parents, his father, Kaizoku, served with the original Stoneclaw, and the original Stoneclaw retired at the same time that Kaizoku, Sharu's father, went back home to find a mate, and just so happened to find his mom, Sharu's mom. And so growing up in the jungle, Sharu was fending for himself, but promise from Stoneclaw the First to Kaizoku was that he would look after their children while they grew up before they left home. So Sharu loves raptor eggs. They are his favorite. So one day he was out looking for a nest, and he knew this nest, and he had kind of timed when the parents go out hunting, and so he tried working it out, and he went into the nest, grabbed an egg, and it was just bad luck. One of the raptors came back early with a kill, and started chasing Sharu, running through the forest. Sharu almost was killed. He basically was running for his life until all of a sudden this fierce black tabaxi with one arm missing, appears out of nowhere, kills the raptor, and saves Sharu from being eaten by a raptor in the jungle for stealing eggs. So yeah, that would probably be one of his more stories that he wouldn't want being told.
I was when I was a hatchling, I tried to steal an egg. It didn't go well.
Basically. And I guess I'll do this one real quick too. In the Dwarven stronghold where he basically studied, he accidentally spilled his drink on a book, and he was so devastated. That was the one I was going to come up with.
Cried for a week.
Basically.
For Seth, you guys haven't seen the letter he wrote to Eunice, but it is embarrassingly filled with a lot of misspellings because he's terrible at writing. But that's not the most embarrassing thing I was going to mention. Do you guys know what a gong farmer is?
No.
So, when he was growing up, he did whatever he could to make money, because his parents were potters and not doing well because they're tieflings too, right? So couldn't get a lot of business. So he was just doing whatever he can around the city to make money. And one of the things was what they call a gong farmer. And those are people who dig out and remove human excrement from privies and cesspits. So basically he's cleaning out all the shit of the city.
Nice.
for whatever little money he can get people to pay him to do it.
Wow.
And there definitely were a couple times where he had some pretty nasty stuff dumped on him, or fell into the latrine or that kind of thing, and did not really have a lot of fun.
It's not really
with
embarrassing.
that.
That's just sad.
Well, embarrassing just that, he's
This big tough guy that's like,
well, not
He's
only
invincible.
he's 10, 12 years old at that point, but
yeah, but you don't want
so
your...
not big tough kid, but
No, like right now.
oh yeah.
So you wouldn't want your...
Yeah, he definitely.
My
wouldn't want to
first
share
job
with,
was
hey, this happened to me as a kid, where I'm shoveling stuff and fall into the hole, and
Yeah.
slip slip into it and
Oh,
get
no.
covered in that.
Arden doesn't have really a sense of embarrassment. Everything is just like if it would get him in trouble or not. So, yeah, I don't. There's just too much sadness in this.
Don't worry, we'll embarrass him eventually.
Yeah, I think. Well, the only thing that really his first time really being embarrassed by people he cared about, what they thought was drinking the water.
Nice.
Because he can drink water just fine, but he just plays along with the joke. But he
It really hurts him inside.
yeah, a little bit, yeah. Yep.
Actually, the more I think about it, I think the most embarrassing thing that has happened to Mossy was in one of our early campaigns when we got ambushed and she started having flashbacks to having been ambushed just 2 or 3 weeks earlier. And so her hands were shaking, and so every shot she tried to make, she missed.
Oh yeah, I remember that. That was really good.
Yeah, you were really, really upset after that.
I mean, I've trained for this for 4 years,
Yeah.
and yet... Anyway.
So Rainer, when he was about 10 or 11, as little boys do, he had a girl. He doesn't remember her name anymore, that he asked to be his girlfriend, and she turned him down.
Oh, poor
But he was still curious. But the only person he had to talk to was a friend of his, named Darius, who is a member of the Coven. But he essentially he wanted to know what it felt like to kiss a girl.
Oh no.
And so he managed to convince his friend Darius, who isn't a girl, for them to kiss so he could see what it felt like. And it was just really awkward, and they never spoke of it again.
That's good.
Is this based on real life experience?
No.
All right, so when Asar was a preteen, so 12, 13 years old, she was super into a book series, a scroll series. And so it was actually written by his crazy uncle, Cabron the Tigo?
Cabron?
There we go. It's basically who's that one guy, the professor against the dark arts that just stole
Snape.
all the...
Or no.
No.
Carl?
Gilderoy.
Yes,
Gilderoy,
that
yeah.
guy. He's basically this Latigo guy is basically Gilderoy from Harry Potter, where he just
Lockhart, yeah.
takes the most famous Latigo stories and he takes credit for them. But anyway, young Asar was just enamored by this gentleman, and so she commissioned a portrait to be painted of him, and she would kiss him on the lips every single night to, because she just was in love with this guy, and she kissed the lips off of the portrait. Because, and then obviously she's just mortified by this now.
You wore the lips off?
I wore, because, your kids just put freaking papyrus or whatever, just papers.
I want Arden to know that so bad so they can turn into...
Oh my gosh, that'd be hilarious.
All right, I got a question for Asar.
Okay.
How much money do you have in that bag of holding?
Yes.
I
just like a bottomless bag?
no, I only started out with 1,000 gold.
Only a
Only,
thousand.
Only
Yeah.
1,000, yeah.
Oh my goodness.
But that's considered like pocket change because that was just what she had on her person or like her brother had on him when he sent her off. So she's used to having several thousand gold at any given time.
Wow.
So everyone's like, "Oh, we're so rich," and like, not really. Not really. But yeah, I don't think Devin realized I put 1,000 in there. I just like arbitrarily put it in there, and then later, like 3 weeks into the campaign, he's like, "Hey."
So how did this 1,000 gold get in there?
I'm like,
Like
"I'm
you said
being
again?"
conservative with it. You didn't even notice.
Hey, you said as long as it fits the backstory, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he wasn't gonna let me be a
Changeling?
changeling, but I convinced him with the backstory. So
Nice.
Yeah.
I
But
love
then
that
I-
about Devin. That if you tell a good enough story, he'll take anything.
but I don't have a lot of detail written down, so it was good enough for the what I told you guys.
I need to know, when did you actually have a character and a backstory? Because we had it
All
like
of us are talking about Brad.
Brad. Because we
we
had
were
it like
like-
months in advance.
yeah.
Like,
Yeah, because we
when did you
yeah,
have
so
it?
we started. Yes, for everybody that doesn't know, we started a year before we started recording, planning this whole world and everything like that. And it was always a joke that I didn't have. And it still is a joke that I don't have a backstory. It was when we started recording that,
No way!
that I had
You kept saying it was all in
talked.
your head.
Yes, I talked a lot about it with my wife, with Chelsea, and we fleshed out a lot of stuff just from talking and what sounded good and what didn't sound good. I didn't write it out any down yet. I was going to, and then I just never figured out how to write it down properly. So the character Arden, as being a changeling, was gonna first be an Aarakocra that was gonna be from the circus,
Okay.
and then escaped, and then was gonna be with everybody. And then I was like, no, I want to be the changeling. But I didn't decide until like a week before we started recording. He's like, you got to decide on one thing. I was like, okay. And then I had come up with how he actually, fled from the Yuan, or how he got away from the Yuan Ti, and how he got to actually be a magical being, or have magical powers, because he wasn't. They're not. There's no magic. They're not allowed magic, the changelings. So for him to have magic, I came up with the blood ritual, basically, that got him connected with the wizard who saved him and taught him everything. But yeah, I didn't have any of that till like a week or so before we started recording.
I have an impossible combination and no reason it should be there, but trust me.
I'm like, I know it'll work, I just don't know.
I was just gonna say, I kind of want to ask what is everyone's character's alignment, but I don't know if we should share that either.
Well, I think to be in the party, we had to. I think
was
Devin
not
had
evil.
some. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely was not
Wait a
evil.
minute. Is Alton actually good?
No, he's not evil either.
he's neutral.
He's neutral.
Is it?
Yeah, I figure we're
Are
at
you
least
sure he's not
neutral. 'Cause
chaotic neutral?
I think we.
No, he's. I intentionally started him as just neutral, and I told Devin, I'm very interested to see how things go, because there's a couple different ways where he could turn good,
Yeah.
he could turn evil, he could become the chaotic neutral, like just super selfish. Like, we'll have to see what happens. But,
Hey, you and I are really bad for each other.
yeah.
Because my character is marginally good, extremely chaotic.
And I did ask Devin, like, what if I made an evil character? Could we make it work or not? And I ultimately decided not to start with that. But
Nice.
My alignment changed.
Really?
Yeah.
What did it start off with?
It was evil.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
So were you lying to us like the whole time as your alignment like changed?
No, like it changed while
Oh, this is backstory.
before we
Okay.
even met you guys,
Okay.
because he was
when he
evil.
had the new, what was his name? The person who saved you?
Iris.
Iris. Yeah.
So
Yeah, you got it.
they kind of turned you.
Yes, he's the one that changed
That's actually kind of funny.
his
'cause
alignment.
Sheru has similar. He wasn't evil. He was just pure neutral.
But he's not good though, because he still doesn't know what
Yeah.
good means yet.
Well,
You're
luckily
asking the
he
deep
has.
philosophical questions
I know.
now.
Well,
What
yeah, he
is
was asking,
goodness?
like, how do you know if you're evil?
It's a good
That's
thing
why
he
I all
has
started it.
great examples
Oh,
in
no.
the party to
Yeah,
follow.
yeah.
But the Sheru, that's kind of how his backstory is.
Smart
He
conscience
was
and
very
angry conscience.
neutral. It was like just out there to learn stories and things, and then he met Malika, and there's a little bit of backstory with her, where he eventually became good because of her example.
Chaotic good.
Is
I'm
he-
sure, right?
Neutral good.
Neutral good.
He's technically not chaotic. I myself am chaotic.
Is
Leads into my character.
is Sharu romantically interested in Malika?
No.
He likes dragons. Weird.
No.
He
I know
likes-
he's
he- Same as me, I only like mammals and he only likes reptiles.
Shiru right now doesn't like anyone.
Well, that's true.
He's more he could be convinced with if you gave him a good philosophical reason
So there's
to
actually a
test.
chance between Sheru and Arden.
Oh yeah.
Possible if there was a good philosophical reason to try it out for science.
That's the only reason why he would do it.
Yeah, but Shiru just I'm trying to go off the turtle physiology and what it says in the Player's Handbook, how they don't really find mates till later in their life. So Shiru, he's like, sure. He's just there for fun and adventure, and he'll find a mate later in life.
Arden is very anti-mate
Really?
Yeah.
You don't want any sort of romantic partner?
because ever since he was a little, he was forced into reproducing, and it was never an emotional thing. It was just,
Wow,
and it's like when he was 5.
Bro, that's dark.
Yeah.
that's terrifying.
Oh my god.
So everybody has a cutoff from when you have to be able to reproduce or you're killed.
Oh wow.
And it's 8 years old for the shapeshifters because you want them to
They just farm
build
them,
up their
essentially.
army and basically
Breed them
build
like
up
dogs.
their exactly.
This makes me hate the UNT even more.
Oh yeah. So he doesn't like the UNT, especially because of a lot of things, but that's one of them. And so there's not a family. He doesn't know what family is because it was just this person bred this person, so he was able to early on, so he was like kind of more advanced in the shape-shifting. That's why he can actually do clothes. Like that's not a normal shapeshifter thing. He can actually create clothes with his skin. That's not normal. So, but he was at 5, and so they started him early on other projects like trying
Kidnapping people.
Yeah. Well,
Changing their evil.
he didn't
Not changing.
he wasn't allowed because he was advanced. He wasn't allowed to leave yet, so he wasn't a part of the kidnapping part. He was a part of the convincing those that were kidnapped to trust him to then give up locations, give up
Okay.
like how many people there are, or how many, just lots of details. So yeah, pretty dark. So he would not be interested in any type of.
What's Kaiji's alignment?
Kaiji's alignment is chaotic good, and in my bio, I wrote abolitionist pirate. Need I say more? The technical word was. It wasn't abolitionist. It was.
I don't remember. You can pull up your bio.
It was I think I wrote abolitionist in my bio, but the more I've thought about it, abolitionists come from the word abolish, and their goal isn't to abolish slavery, but to
Liberationist.
that's what the word liberationist pirate. That's what it was.
Liberation.
Yeah, because you do pirating to do good.
So therefore, chaotic good.
Yeah.
So I don't normally steal things, but it was just like a win in Rome feeling.
Spur of the
like,
moment.
well,
And Alton's like, you're a pirate. I'm just trying to do what you normally do.
oh, so we talk each other into it. That's funny. Yeah, well, that much value sitting on a table, There's also a certain amount of rob the rich to
Oh yeah.
not
Plus he
feed
tried
the
to
poor,
kill-
but free the poor.
the guy.
We tried to kill Gatheus.
Yeah.
What
Oh,
was a good
he's
reason for that?
he's a slaver though.
Yeah.
So I
That made sense.
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, I'd do it again if you wouldn't kill me first.
We will do it again.
I think Devin didn't want him dead yet. So that's
No,
why-
no,
so
Devin's
funny
like,
if you
I
guys got
wrote
him."
4 pages on this guy.
I feel like he might have artificially raised some stuff
Yeah.
Yeah.
like that, and just like,
I've got to use that dagger. Get it with
That
that.
would be interesting.
Enslave his soul.
How do you
make
like
him
it?
fail a save, but
What about Rainers and Asar's characters?
Yeah, so Raynor is chaotic good. He basically has kind of his own mentality towards survival, but like overall, because he's gone through a lot of shit, he's not really like, he's not out to essentially make life harder for other people. He actually doesn't even really hate the Coven for what they did, simply because, like, you know, if it was true and they had reason for it, you know, he would, like, in his mind, if, let's say, like, the Coven had been, you know, doing dark dealings and the Latigos were called upon to basically cleanse the Coven, his family probably would have done the exact same thing. So it's something where, like, he doesn't know all of the details behind why the Coven came and wiped out his family, but he, like, kind of got he got a few hints here and there just over the years, just because news passes around that, like, you know, the Latigos got wiped out because X, Y, or Z, and so in his mind, it's essentially like, you know, if it had been the other way around, you know, his family would have been in the same position that the Coven did. So he doesn't entirely hold it against them. He kind of has, you know, a little bit of apathy towards just like the main religions of Germati in general, and like just the main church there and stuff in general, simply because, you know, in his mind he's like, you know, did they even try and resolve it outside of that, or was it just, you know, because it seemed to him like it was just like ambush and take it out kind of thing. And so he kind of doesn't like the fact that they aren't willing to look for different routes to essentially resolve issues, and, you know, just this cleansing is kind of like their first go-to option, but he really doesn't he doesn't hold any like real hatred towards it. It's just kind of at this point in time with his life, he's just been surviving, and his whole plan is to keep surviving and just, you know, try not to make life hard on anyone else.
When did his drinking become a part of his personality?
As soon as he was old enough to, you know, afford to drink. It probably took it basically took like years before he could probably really get the money to do it, because he was living on the streets for much of his teenage years. But, you know, he might, you know, steal a bottle out back of an inn here and there or something and just
Have you
run off
figured
with
out
it.
what his favorite drink is?
What his favorite drink is?
Yeah.
He doesn't really, like, he likes it strong, but he doesn't have
Whatever
any
he
preference. Yeah.
I need to talk to Devin about getting my hands on another bottle of Serpent's Piss.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, I have... What's with the catnip?
Wait, we gotta hear a song.
Oh my gosh!
Okay, so...
Wait, after a
After
Asar.
Sorry.
Asar presents herself as lawful good, but in the inside, she is true neutral. So, like, she as a politician, she'll do stuff that will, like, she prioritizes her family's goals and priorities, and, like, obviously herself. So, like, if you get her mad enough, you'll see that, like, she's not entirely goody two shoes. So.
I hate politicians.
So catnip.
So, yeah, you had a very negative reaction when Arden had
So,
the catnip.
I don't know what I'm supposed to say and what I'm not supposed to say. So,
Okay.
Player knowledge and all.
That's fine. Because I think we'll figure it out when we're playing.
So
That's okay.
okay, all right.
I just remembered. I was like, oh yeah, you had this very negative reaction to and it being used and it being existing and
Yep.
yeah.
Everything about it is bad. And I mean, it can be used recreationally, but because I already don't like you and I don't trust you,
Yeah.
I don't want you to have it.
Right. Makes sense.
So that's where that comes
You
from.
need to give it to Alton. He wants the recreational. That was like one of our
Or
first
Rainer.
things.
He
Yeah,
seems to like being
Rainer.
paralyzed.
Very first things was like, can it be used for
That
recreation?
was
Actually,
the kind of recreational
It
drug I was
might be.
looking
It
for.
might be interesting to give it to Rainer because one of its properties is it just makes people super suggestible.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
Or I think it'd be terrible for Asar because she's so poised and like, she's so
no.
in control. So having this just, you'd go off the rails.
Oh jeez,
man.
yeah, she would not like
Well, we
that.
already
That'd
know.
be
We
hilarious.
just need to get Asar really angry.
Yeah.
there's that too.
That's true.
My question is, what's been your favorite part of the whole campaign so far? Just start over here.
The way Devin's connected things that I thought never could have been connected, or like
He's
suddenly
good at
there's weird things from our backstories that he's weaved together.
Yeah,
It's been really cool.
he's been one of the best DMs I've ever
Yeah.
had the opportunity to play with.
He's really good at story building. And
I've been joking around with my coworkers, like, okay, so my DM is like super intense. Like he has created the socioeconomic structure of this city.
he had already planned the freaking dung beetles and how they do the sewage and stuff. Like,
At the
It
same
was-
time, I totally get him though, because the
Yeah.
more I start making Kaiji's tribe, which is funny because Kaiji wants to separate from her tribe as much as possible. She just wants to block that part of her life out, and so she identifies as a pirate, not as a huntress. But I love building that part of her backstory. It's so much fun. And I've built up the ship a little bit, but not nearly as much as the jungle.
my favorite part is that I get to be a part of it. Like, I'm glad Devin let me into the whole, because I did not want to play D&D. I did not want to be that nerd. I did not want to go down that road, and so he forced me to play 3.5 on a piece of paper, and I was like, nope, I don't like this
3.5 is dangerous.
at all.
3.5 is dangerous.
Then he's like, he kept trying, and he was like, all right, let's play with D&D Beyond and with 5e, and he's like, I really think you'll like it. And then I did our first campaign with Ryan, and I made a barbarian. I was like, that's gonna be easy to make, and I loved it. It was so much fun, and I was like, dang it, Devin, you jerk, you got me into this. And I get hyper focused and stuff, so I learned
Feel
how
that
to.
hardcore.
Yeah, I learned how to freaking DM. I did it at work. I did like
I didn't even realize this was like.
I made
how
3D
recently you
characters.
started.
Oh yeah, it's very recent that I
Yeah,
started.
That was my
D&D.
first time ever playing too.
Wow.
And then ever since then, it's like I'm just glad that he kept trying, and that, like, now that we're a part of this thing, it's really cool. I never would have thought.
Nice.
I really like it. It's fun. I look forward to Wednesdays all the
Oh
time.
yeah. Favorite day of the week.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love how you can just like build stuff and hand it to Devin. So I built all of my.
I don't know what that's like.
So I built a backstory, and so I made all 10 of my crew members, of my unit, and I just handed it over to Devin, and I'm like, okay, these are their backstories, and you just have to deal with that and distribute them in the world like you think they go, and don't tell me, because then it's hard for me to separate player knowledge from character knowledge. And he's like, okay, I'll do it. Just anything you're giving me does. I also love how, anytime you tell him, how your character is feeling about something, he tries to set aside time to let you express that in game. So that whole thing I was talking about with, my character, having PTSD from the ambush, I just told him about that the week before. He's like, okay, well, I'll set time aside for you. And I know Sarah's done that a number of times too.
Yeah, I'm not really good at, like, I have to pre-plan stuff and be like, Devin, I want to do this.
No, there's been so many times, like, I plan things and then they just don't happen the next time.
Yeah.
And I wish that I were better at that. Like, the necklace that we got, the, like, special water-breathing, poison-breathing necklace, I was telling Devin about this. This one didn't happen to work out because he dropped all of Ben's backstory, which is fine because I'd had a lot of time focused on me because I was, like, the first mission and I was the Nalia mission as well. So I'm like, I'm fine. I can take backseat for a second. But that necklace was so interesting to me because it's you are sent on a hunting challenge. You come home and you're given a token for succeeding in hunting.
Just like that one shot we played.
Just like the one shot, which actually,
Which is what you missed.
So I told Devin that all of the reason that I did the one shot right after that is because those were happening at the same time. And so it was actually Fern's birthday that same week during the fall festival in Nalia. It was the fall Ritamari in Kitamari. So she was having all these really torn feelings on the boat. So she wasn't like quite as gung-ho and happy to be back on the water as she normally would have been.
Ben, favorite.
So I would have to say, like, because I think Devin did an excellent job of selecting, like choosing who you wanted to be in the campaign, simply because I love doing a lot of, like, RP stuff, and I felt like it's been really easy to bounce stuff off of you guys just in the middle of sessions and things, and it's been a lot of fun. I would say that, like, the way that it's kind of turned out with how, like, Rainer's kind of just relationships with certain party members wasn't exactly what I was thinking he was, like, would have been from the beginning, but just the personality of the other party members and his interactions with them and how that's gone,
Like the flaming fish.
has just yes, the
That was a
old
great-
meet and greet. It's just stuff where I like how essentially the character, like, when a character essentially becomes their own thing. Yeah, I'm, like, playing Rainer, but I try my best not to be Ben when I'm playing Rainer and to just only be Rainer. And so sometimes afterwards I, like, think about it and I'm like, like, if this were Ben, I probably wouldn't have done A, B, or C, but, it was Rainer, so it makes sense. And so it's just been a lot of fun to be able to RP with you guys, like, just as someone I'm not.
That's fun.
Yeah, it's very therapeutic to be like,
Yeah.
and I'm gonna let go all of my angsty bitchy energy tonight.
Let it
It
flow.
works really well because Rainer is an angsty little bitch. So.
Right? Moral of the story.
I mean, just to play off of that, my favorite part is when we, as players, as characters, go off and do something random. Like, you can kind of see Devin sweating because he's just like, what are you doing?
He's like, what are you gonna do now?
And like the most memorable part of all of our campaign is when we decide to do something crazy, like the yeet and greet. Like, hey, let's go vandalize a temple. Yeah.
I want to light something on fire. Oh, a fish.
Yeah.
We got a fish from the market.
Or the chaos
whenever
of everything.
Sharu and Arden gets together, I'm just like,
yeah.
I know there's gonna be consequences, but I'm into it. Like, Asar's not into it, but I'm into it. I'm like, yes, I love it.
I
So
never
much
know
fun.
what Austin's gonna do.
I don't know what I'm doing either.
Like, I was not expecting you to, like, bewitch that one lady until he's like,
Or like how Arden like stole all that stuff from the
was
the thing.
From the college? Yeah.
I walk in and I walk out.
It's like, why didn't we think of this before? He's a changeling.
I will say, sometimes it feels like Sharu is like a large dog and Austin is just holding on to the leash for dear life.
that's pretty good.
Question is, who's holding on to who?
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing is, Sheru is a lot of my inner inhibitions just let go. Because I'm normally not that talkative of an individual, and Sheru talks way too much. There's been times where I come home from a session like, oh my goodness, all my social energy is gone.
It's so funny because we're driving home and I'm all like, "Hey, this was so fun." It's like, "Yep, like you're that way again, aren't you?" "Yep." "Okay."
But that's also low-key my favorite part is, like Ben said, just being another character, just diving in, trying to forget you and be someone else, and it has that therapeutic quality, and I don't know, it's just a lot of fun. I don't know, I guess that's my favorite part.
Most emotional part.
That one time I started
Where you felt it.
yelling at you. I'm trying to remember what that one was. There was that.
Where what?
That one. My most emotional part was the one time I started yelling at you.
When you were gonna claw him or smack him? Or...
Which I've done that a couple times.
I think it's because like he messed up when we were trying to save your friends.
That's what it was. Yeah, you two got arrested while we were trying to save
Oh
my
my
friends.
gosh.
That's what it
Yeah.
was.
The crazy thing is I try to like, I know you're saying it to Arden, but like I'm trying to be like, because you do such a good job at being like emotional about, and like there's no cameras on us, so like you can't see the emotion that goes into it, but like I feel it. I'm like, I want to apologize as Brad. I'm like, I'm so sorry. I don't know. But like it's Arden. He's doing. I gotta separate that.
Yeah.
Yeah, Kayla, you're really good at
Yeah.
making sure that the emotional element of the character is
Seriously.
there. I aspire to be like you.
That is
Thank
so
you.
good.
'Cause
Yeah.
I internalize
right
a lot
here.
of stuff.
Yeah.
Like, just like, Asari on the inside is feeling this, but she doesn't vocalize anything, so no one knows.
Well, that's actually the other hard thing is when you're playing
you
a character.
internally-
I've had to do that a couple times. When you're playing a character that is closed off, like without being able to use facial expressions, it's hard to be like, and my character is very actively being silent.
Yeah, right?
It's a
Right.
real thing.
Yeah, I know Rainer has had like a couple times where he's been angry, but probably one of my favorite kind of more like emotional things for him was it's stuff where it's like Devin throws some at me that wasn't exactly planned by me, but essentially when he, was inspecting a scroll case in one of the gems and he heard his like, basically a recording essentially of his father's voice.
Oh yeah.
And he essentially he basically falls asleep that night, listening to it over and over again until he goes out, kind of thing. Where it's most of his emotional moments kind of happen in the quiet and like when people aren't around. But he does have a lot of just like internalized emotion behind just like his occasional angry outbursts. For reasons, but that was a good one.
Mine was the coming out
As
as
a
a.
changeling?
I wasn't ready to do it. I was thinking about like, when am I gonna do it? And then Sarah just goes off on all these things that I'm like, he has to. She's saying exactly what he's feeling all the time, and it's like wants to be honest, and it's like, all right, she made him come out.
Just as my character, a leader.
Yes.
So I was shaking. Like that hit me a lot. I was like, called Chelsea on my way home. I was like, that was a tough one.
It was a doozy of a session.
Yeah. I was like,
You feel exhausted afterwards too.
Yeah. It's like, man, I felt that. I was not expecting that. It was pretty, yeah.
I remember even early on when Tondal's daughter died, and all of us were devastated for like 2 weeks.
I still have PTSD over that. It's just
Yeah.
like, oh
Is that
no,
your, your
oh, my
old
favorite NPCs, that was gonna kill them.
Yeah, no, we.
I remember that Sarah sending out a message like, okay, we have to find every single one of Mossy's crew. I'm like, hey. I mean, I don't want them to die, but you're more attached than I am.
No one else dies.
No one dies.
I think for Alton, the one for him in the campaign so far was when he got a look at Liaru, that thief, and realized she's just been living happily in the sanctum,
Oh yeah,
with
you were.
no repercussions at all or whatever, and she gave away all of the information that they wanted.
You're pretty good about being pissed off. on
Yeah,
that.
so I tried to like really play up that he was furious, but also pissed that he couldn't do anything about it at that time because they were like watching him or whatever too.
Yeah.
Other than that, it's also watching Kaiji and like similar experiences in his childhood as she's had or whatever, just in terms of races that are not respected and prone to being enslaved and that kind of thing. So it's like, oh, I can maybe relate to that a little bit while he's trying to figure out how to fit into this group when he's not used to fitting in.
Yeah, you and I haven't done enough watches together. We should do more watches.
Arden so wanted to be.
We're both dark vision.
Arden
so.
so wanted to be a part of your group of not fitting in, and it was. But him being with the UNT was like, you did not accept him at all, and was like, yeah. So he's very, very sad that you didn't let him in the group.
Alright, Asara has welcomed you into her group.
I know, you gave him a title.
Yeah.
That was one of the coolest things.
I still like that idea of you like using message to subliminally plant like all those memories. Like, hey, remember when we were friends? Hey,
Oh,
remember
yeah.
how I said these things?
Yeah, we had a conversation. She had a good,
That's my idea to try to reconcile our characters.
basically like, remember when I said this? Remember when? Yeah, that was pretty good.
We'll see if it works.
Yeah, we'll see.
I think we're out of time.
Yeah.
thereabouts.
That was
We
fun.
didn't talk about your most emotional moment though.
He just gets yelled at all the
I
time.
just know that. I love it when you guys go into your backstories. They're all sad and all that. I know. I sit there and like. There's been a couple times where I can't think of a specific time, but I've come to almost crying a couple of times and just got a tear in the eye, ready to fall. But as far as emotions go, I think it's actually when I'm driving home with Kayla. We role play as if our characters were talking on watch.
Oh, nice.
And it's not canonical, but Kaiji's told me some of her backstory about being captured and all that. And that's actually been pretty, I guess, emotional role-playing.
I have one last question. I know we're out of time, but how much did you work on your voice?
We were driving up.
Yeah. Well, the funny thing is, like every night I was like, hey, you need to work on your voice. Hey, we're both from the jungle, but we're from different jungles. Are they going to be similar? Are they going to be
Right.
different? And
Because you worked on yours.
I worked on mine for like a month.
Yeah. Yours is great.
It is.
Yeah.
And I talked with you too much, and so
It's a lot like mine.
your voice seeped into my voice.
I know you thought about it a lot, Ryan.
I couldn't come to any decisions about it. Just I rolled out a ton of ideas of things like that wouldn't really fit for him, that wouldn't fit for him, and whatever. And then it was like maybe just before we started, maybe even after while you guys were driving up or whatever. But it's like, you know what, I'll just do this, and and then stick to that for now.
Yeah, that first session, I don't even think all of our voices were quite settled.
No.
Because,
You kind of get into a rhythm and then it works itself out.
Yeah, I wish I could be better with accents. You're good with accents.
Yeah, I had my voice essentially as soon as I had the character done. And
I'm like watching all these YouTube videos, like how to speak British. I'm like, it's not even close. It's not even close.
And like the only accents I can do don't fit for Alton.
Oh, really? No, okay.
I
What
could
kind
do
of
Southern
accents?
or New York.
Yeah, we talked
I
about
love
it.
doing-
New York
It'd be
accent?
funny.
What? Okay, I want to hear it.
I do love making up like
Brooklyn,
voices
get off the grass.
on the spot for like the one-shot characters
Yeah.
and stuff. That's a lot of fun.
Just doing something super wacky.
Like I love doing pipes. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I like your voice.
We should bring them back.
So I wanted a character. That's partly why I did a changeling. I wanted a character that I could play with different voices.
Nice.
Herb
Because-
Sans Spices.
Yeah,
So funny.
herb sands,
Herb Sans
herb
Spices.
sands.
My name's Cletus.
Actually,
It's just-
and I think when this one airs, no one's met them.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you're right.
So then there's a
Nobody's
spoiler
gonna-
for you guys.
Spoiler
Hope you
alert.
enjoy.
That's not a spoiler, that's a teaser.
Teaser.
So, and then I just didn't want to have to remember a voice either. But then that didn't really work out because now I have to remember Cletus and my other ones, and it's been fun playing around. But
Yeah, this is
I
awesome.
went through so many variations. That's where all my effort went into. Not the backstory, but what Arden sounds like. And then I finally found one that I really liked. And it's basically a variation of Attenborough, David Attenborough, the British.
I feel that now.
Yeah. So because he embodies kind of like the confidence with older. Anyway, so it was just, yeah. I worked a lot on. I did so many with Chelsea to be like, does this sound good? She's like, yeah. She was always like, yeah, that sounds good. Like, no, like,
I need actual criticism.
very supportive, which is good.
That's awesome. Well, thank you all for listening. I hope you enjoyed our 124th celebration episode.
It's been kind of a long one, but been a good one. So,
Very good.
See you next time.
Yep, next time.
If you like listening to Roll Fair, check us out on Facebook and Instagram. We'd love to hear from you. Also, check out our merch store at rollfair.com. 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 Rollfair.com.